and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers, LA 21-12681, offices in Baton Rouge. Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on a Friday the 13th, as it were. Casey Gaines and Taylor Sharp back there on the ones and twos. Pumped to get you ready for the weekend. David Grubb covers the Pels and Saints for Hard in the Pain podcast. He is coming up in 15 minutes. Tony Tsoukalas in 30 minutes. He covers the Alabama Crimson Tide, who LSU will meet on the hardwood in Coleman Coliseum tomorrow. I'll preview LSU and Alabama at 2 o'clock. Get you some thoughts on the SEC slate tomorrow, as well as the National Football League playoffs, which are in full swing starting tomorrow. So locked and loaded. Glad you're spending some Friday afternoon with us. We'll be with you for the next 2 hours. Ovie Oghoufo. Is that right? Chris Blair's got to figure it out one way or another. Ovie Oghoufo is committed to LSU. He spent some time with Brian Kelly at Notre Dame, transferred to Texas, will spend his last year of college football with LSU. And he's a guy who is a linebacker, potentially could play a little bit on the edge as well. And it looks like LSU has pretty much set themselves up in the defensive front seven. We understand they played the bowl game without their starting front seven from the Florida State game. Their starting front four from the Florida State game. B.J. Ojulari moving on, Ali Gay moving on, Quayle Roy moving on. So you had to do some shuffling. And now you kind of look ahead to the next season and what do they have? And I think their numbers are pretty good. I'll spell this out for you. On the edge, where Gay and specifically Ojulari had such an impact on the season, Ojulari more so for sure, you've got to replace a lot of production. So they have Savion Jones, who we've heard a lot of over the last couple of years. So it'll be his time to shine a little bit. Braden Swinson comes in from Oregon, where he was a pretty productive player. You figure he's got a real chance to start at one of those spots. Quincy Wiggins is a precocious young talent. Look at it and say, man, if he could figure it out, that's a frame and an athlete that we could really use on the edge. Paris Shand played some edge for Arizona. You bring in Deshaun Womack, Dylan Carpenter, Jackson Howard also in this class. I just rattled off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 names of guys. And you figure if you throw Carpenter and Howard as true freshmen that may not be quite ready to roll, that's 5 guys, which is okay. On the interior of the defensive front, you've got Mekhi Wingo coming back and Mason Smith. That forms a really stout interior of your defensive line. Jacobian Guillory gives you solid depth. Jordan Jefferson from West Virginia provides depth as well. Jalen Lee's over 300 pounds from Florida. That's 5 guys on the interior that you feel like can give you depth and are veterans, not necessarily freshmen you're tossing to the Wolves, veteran players. And you look at linebacker, Perkins and Penn with Wes Weeks, Ovie. That one's tough. I got to be honest. I consider myself reasonably adept at pronouncing names. Ovie Oghoufo is going to take some time to get used to, but you got Harold Perkins, Greg Penn, West Weeks, Ogie Oghoufo, and Whit Weeks, as well as Brathwaite, Christian Brathwaite coming in. You've got 5 or 6 guys at linebacker as well. So your numbers are pretty good, and this is the side of the ball that's taking an overhaul. When the talking heads start talking about LSU football in August, well, in July and media days, and then in August, they will immediately point to the offense, and they'll point to Daniels, and they'll point to Malik Neighbors, they'll point to Brian Thomas, they'll point to the freshman tackles. That'll be the talking point. In my opinion, what's going to make this team whatever it is, whether it's a really good team or a team that underachieves, is going to be the defense. And they've done a pretty good job of making it over. And Ovie Oghoufo, I wasn't even right that time. Ovie Oghoufo is going to be a piece to that puzzle. Also for LSU this weekend, you may not have realized this, may have been a minute since you were in college, they haven't started school yet. They don't start for a while. when you pass Christmas. But they will start on Tuesday after the Martin Luther King holiday. And that means it's time for the early enrollees to show up. And LSU will welcome 13 of the 25 signees early. And that's a big deal because I've talked a lot over the last couple of months about how different freshmen are being utilized in college football today than they were 20 years ago. They're just more ready. And one of the reasons is because of early enrollment. It's not the only reason. High school athletes are being trained at a far better level than they were 20 years ago, than they were 40 years ago. And so when you take a high school athlete that's been trained properly and then you put him into the college environment, in this case, 6 months early, it matters. From a physical perspective, from a mental perspective, just from living on your own. Mom's not whipping up dinner anymore. You don't have that kind of authority that my roof, my rules. You're on your own now. There's something to be said for learning those lessons in January and February as opposed to in September when you're getting ready for Auburn. So we'll roll through these early enrollees and kind of talk about what kind of impact you might expect from them in their first fall. Ricky Collins will enroll early, and I think that's just a scout team arm. Now, if something happens with one of those two guys that you're counting on, and Jaden Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier, that narrative changes pretty quickly. So it's nice to have him in there, but the expectation would not be that Ricky Collins would be a big contributor come the fall. Trey Holly at running back. We're still not certain what that room's going to look like. What's John Emery's decision going to be? He's got a couple days to figure that out. What's the health of Armani Goodwin? Is he ready to go in the spring? If not, there's a lot of reps to be had. Maybe Trey Holly can do it. You would imagine Noah Kane will be there, and he'll be kind of the leader. Josh Williams as well. But maybe Holly can get some reps in the spring. Got a couple of wide receivers. The pass catchers in this class were really, really talented. There were 4 wide receivers in the class. Jalen Brown and Kyle Parker are going to enroll early. Brown from Miami, just absolute speed merchant. And reps are going to be tough to come by as far as wide receiver goes. And you got a little bit of a boost when you saw Kayshawn decide to leave. But you still got Malik Neighbors. You still got Brian Thomas. We'll see if Chris Hilton's ready to roll. Ibieta played a little bit in the bowl game. But hey, Jalen Brown, Kyle Parker, come on. Brown's the speed guy. That's his trait. Parker, uber productive in the state of Texas last year. And he's physically probably the wide receiver that is the furthest along. So those two guys make a push. Now here's a guy that I think has a chance to play next year. That's Mac Markway. His size is not a question. The question is he hasn't played football in 2 years because he's got hurt. So I think the spring is huge for him as far as strapping on the chin strap and facing up against some SEC defensive ends and edge rushers. He's got to prove he can do that. And so I think it's a huge spring for Mac Markway. Jackson McGowan is going to be in as well, the second of 3 tight ends. Kamorian Pimpton being the other one. So McGowan will have a chance to come in and compete at the tight end spot. They're starting to fill those numbers in. You heard Brian Kelly preseason talking to Rotary Club or in press conference or whatever his speaking engagement may have been. So we're going to have to get a little creative at tight end because we don't really have him. Now Cole Taylor moves on. You've got Mason Taylor. But these two guys immediately, in terms of just reps in practice, are going to be right towards the front of that line. Here's a freshman who may be ready to make an impact. All eyes on the spring on the defensive side, maybe on Deshaun Womack. 5-star, heir apparent to B.J. Ojulari. Really impressive senior campaign. He'll have to fight for time with Swinson and Akufo. But Womack is really, really talented. And this is one of those guys I'm talking about when you talk about freshmen getting ready to roll. He's going to be a factor. And the 6 months head start is going to be huge for him. I expect Deshaun Womack to be out there early and often against Florida State. Jackson Howard, same position. It's an overhaul up front. Every man for himself in terms of getting reps, but Jackson Howard will be an early enrollee. Whit Weeks had a 100-plus tackle season in Georgia his final high school year. He had, by all accounts, a really nice All-American Bowl in San Antonio. And linebacker spot, you've got Penn, you've got Perkins, you've got West Weeks. Whit Week and West Week's going to be tough to separate. But you've got West Weeks there. He didn't play a ton his first year in Baton Rouge. Can Whit make a push? And then you got a couple of corners. Jeremiah Hughes, the only true corner in this class. All the reps at corner are up there for the taking. And then Javian Toviano, which you got to decide in the spring. I think it's going to be massive for him. Where does he fit? You want to put him on the boundary? Do you want to play him at the nickel? Can he play some safety if you think that that's your best combination with the personnel you've got out there? They've got a spring to evaluate that. So I think that it's huge for him to get in there and see how he stacks up. I was talking to Shea Dixon recently. He loves Ryan Yates. Shea was in Orlando at the Under Armour All-American game and said Yates was fantastic. Now, you got Major Burns, you got Greg Brooks, Sage Ryan is back as well. So you've got some veteran leaders at that spot. But Yates is, by all accounts, pretty solid prospect. He'll be an early enrollee. And then safety Michael Daugherty, who was also in San Antonio at the All-American Bowl. He will be on campus looking to potentially find some way to get on the field as a nickelback. So those are your early enrollees for LSU this weekend. Ricky Collins at quarterback, Trey Holly at running back, at wide receiver, Jalen Brown and Kyle Parker are in. At tight end, you got Mac Markway and Jackson McGowan. On the edge, you got Deshaun Womack and Jackson Howard. Whit Weeks will be at linebacker, and then at corner, Jeremiah Hughes and Javian Toviano with Ryan Yates and Michael Daugherty as the safeties who are enrolling early. So this is a new era of college football in a lot of ways, and one of them is the fact that you generally are not going to welcome 13 freshmen to campus in January as of 15 years ago. You do now. It's time to get them out there, get them coached up, and it's time to push off the dock and go for these guys. So exciting time for them to get their feet on the ground, figure out what college is all about for a couple months. They'll get into spring practice, and by the time that August rolls around, they ought to be kind of humming along. That's the new expectation in college football. So look at your early enrollees for LSU. LSU Alabama preview from Tony Tsoukalas coming up at 1:30. LSU Alabama preview from me coming up at 2 o'clock. We'll look at the SEC games and, of course, we'll look at the NFL playoffs as well moving forward. When we come back, Pels are on the court tonight against Detroit. We'll talk with David Grubb from Hard in the Paint podcast about that, as well as a little bit of Saints as well. Come back with us on a Friday. Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com. One contractor, one bath and closets. How much better would your living situation be if you renovated that bathroom? Change your whole home. Let David Duvall and his team come in and do it. If you need a full-scale renovation, they can do it. They're your one-stop shop. If you just need something simple like a tub-to-shower conversion, they can do that too. Let David Duvall and his team come in and help you out with your bathroom, and they can also help you out with your closet. If you're like me, your closet's a disaster. Maybe you just need some organization, couple of racks, couple of mirrors, couple of cubbies, tie rack. Let David Duvall and his team come in and help you out. It starts with a questionnaire, and it finishes up with a customized closet that meets your every need. And if you say the Hunt Palmer Show sent you from 104.5 ESPN to One Bath and Closets, they're not going to charge you to rip out that current unit or the labor that it costs to get that new one in. You're just going to pay for the unit that you purchase. One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com is the website, onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off MSRP on all new 2022 Black Widow Jeep Gladiators in stock. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty and free delivery. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luber for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary. For those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
Have you ever heard the tale of the misunderstood bull? A menacing beast that was born to float. A force of nature. The embodiment of grace. Quite grand, yet quiet and nimble. The Infiniti QX80.
Experience the Infiniti QX80 at your local
NFL Wild Card Weekend. Tune in Saturday when the 49ers host the Seahawks at 3:30 p.m., immediately followed by the Jaguars and Chargers at 7:15. Then on Sunday, the Bills host the Dolphins at noon, the Vikings host the Giants at 3:30, and the Bengals host the Ravens at 7:15. Right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Friday the 13th. Let's make a Citizens Bank poll question today. Why not? Citizens Bank poll question today. Are you superstitious? Just yes or no. I got some superstitions. I'm a little weird watching games. I turn my hat around backwards or change where I'm sitting. I change the beverage up at time to time. I got some superstitions. I don't know if Friday the 13th is making the cut for me, though, on superstitions. I'm curious to see how that poll comes out. I bet more than 50% say that they are superstitious. I want to remind you to join former LSU Tigers Aaron and Austin Nola for the 2023 Strikeout ALS Bowling event. The Nola brothers are teaming up once again to help raise critical funds and awareness for the fight against ALS. The 2023 Strikeout ALS will be held at the Red Stick Social Thursday, January the 19th. That is this coming Thursday from 5 to 10 p.m. Tickets to be purchased at als.org/strikeoutals. We're going to chat with David Grubb of Heart of the Paint here shortly. Casey, he did text me, said he's ready to roll, so you can give him a call. We can rock and roll. Pels on the hardwood tonight against Detroit. Detroit stinks. They're just not good. The Pels dropped a big one this week to the Celtics, 125-114. Kind of the C.J. McCollum show at this point. He went for 38, and he's really the number 1 and 2 and 3 scoring option on this team. Najee Marshall's chipping in a little bit without B.I. and without Zion. It's just a team that does not have all pistons firing, obviously, and the Celtics are real good. And in that game, you had a career high from Jaylen Brown of 41 points, just far too much. But no such opponent tonight with the Pistons, who have just been brutal all season long. I do want to talk with David about that. I also want to talk with David about the Mickey Loomis press conference that just wrapped up. Mickey Loomis did announce that Dennis Allen's going to be back with the New Orleans Saints. That's certainly what we expected after the Saints defense kind of played very well down the stretch. They won some games. Of course, it looked very ugly against Carolina. But David Grubb from Hard in the Paint podcast joins us now. And David, I was just talking about Mickey Loomis just had a press conference, said that Dennis Allen will be back. That surprise you?
It doesn't surprise me, but it disappoints, I think, me and most folks who look at this team. I think the problem with Dennis Allen is not that he's not a capable football coach. I mean, we saw what he did with the Saints defense over the years. But there's a big difference between, in any sport. We've talked about it as journalists and commentators, and we've heard coaches say it. It's a huge difference in moving over that one seat. And Dennis Allen just doesn't inspire confidence from the fan base. He didn't seem to inspire the best effort of his team this season. And it was great last year in the one game where you get Dennis Allen out there and he shuts out Tom Brady and all that. But he coached 17 games like that this year. Like, he was afraid to take risks, to take chances. And the one thing that I think Saints fans over the years, the coaches that have been successful, whether it was Jim Mora when he was doing his best, when Jim Haslett was at his peak, and when Sean Payton certainly was what he is and earned his stature amongst NFL coaches, it was because the Saints did something or played in some way that made them aggressive. And I don't think this year you ever felt that the Saints were the most aggressive team in many of the games that they were playing against their opponents. And I think that starts with Dennis Allen.
What's job number one for the Saints organization this offseason?
Who are they going to be? They need an identity. Because I have no idea what this team wants to be. Do they want to be a power running team that relies on its defense? Do they want to be an up-tempo offensive team? You don't have a quarterback, so you don't have an identity there. Your defense is in transition. Who knows how many of your veterans will be back? Your offensive line is in flux. So who the hell do you want to be as a franchise if you don't have that question answered? And you started that with Dennis Allen, the most milquetoast answer you could possibly come up with. I'm concerned.
It sounds that way. It's just not a very promising picture right now for the black and gold. Of course, the Pels are a little more promising these days, especially when they're at full strength, which they are not at the moment. What'd you take from the Celtics loss?
I don't think you take anything away from that game.
Yeah.
Even at full strength, it would be hard to win in Boston. And the Celtics weren't at full strength either. Down Marcus Smart, down Robert Williams, two very important players for them. They had their biggest two, though. And when you're dealing with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and then you don't have Herb Jones as well, it just kind of made it impossible for them. I think the one thing that you're looking at from the Pelicans as of late, CJ McCollum, number one, I think has earned his spot as an all-star this year. He's never been an all-star in his career, but I think this year his combination of stats and impact have earned him a spot as an all-star. And then I think the other thing is, we went into this season thinking Herb Jones or Trey Murphy III was going to be the guy who took the leap amongst the young Pelicans. And it's been Najee Marshall. Yeah. And he's proven himself to be a legitimate starter in the NBA and maybe the best value in the NBA as well, considering he's an undrafted free agent and making under $2 million a year.
Yeah, it's like you're reading my notes right here. Najee Marshall was second after CJ on what I wanted to talk to you about. And my question is, we understand the Pelicans' depth has really gotten them some wins as they battled some injuries. But when you get to playoff time, crunch time, you need your guys. Where does Najee Marshall fit in if the Pelicans are at full strength in a big-time playoff matchup?
Well, he's definitely in your top 7 now. If you're at full strength, you talk about a Pelicans top 5 that is CJ, Zion, B.I., Herb, and Jonas. And then your bench, we're starting with Larry Nance Jr., Najee Marshall, and Jose Alvarado. Mm-hmm. So there's your top 8 right there, with Trey Murphy probably being your 9th, obviously. So, I think your top 9 at full strength is as good as anybody in the NBA. But, yeah, I think Pelicans fans need to understand that the depth is about the regular season, and it's for surviving these times. But at some point, they need to be healthy because the last stretch of the season when teams are really trying to position themselves, and it's going to be a really interesting All-Star and trade deadline. The Pelicans need to be at full strength because the playoffs come down to who has the best player in the series. And Zion Williamson could be the best player of the series in probably 2 or 4 rounds in the NBA right now. But if he's not there, it makes it a lot harder for the Pelicans to have that kind of advantage.
We understand the kind of draft assets, the kind of depth that the Pelicans do have on their roster. Do you anticipate a move coming here before the deadline to add a new piece?
I think a move is coming, but I think folks need to lower their expectations for the type of move. I don't think you're going to see a major name because this is a seller's market. And what the Pelicans don't need a major name. What they need is better production from the front court because we're not seeing much out of Jackson Hayes or Billy Hernan-Gomez right now. It's Jonas Valanciunas or bust. And I think with Larry Nance, again, getting injured recently, he's at 6'7", an undersized power forward center. So you need somebody up front. And I think the other thing the Pelicans may look to is one more person who can help create a shot. Because without CJ, without Ingram, when those guys are off the floor, the only shot creator you really have is Najee Marshall, and to a lesser extent Jose Alvarado. But I think that is a concern for the team, not a major concern, but something that you'd like to have, in case of emergency going into the postseason.
Key tonight against Detroit?
The key tonight against Detroit is stay healthy, because the Pistons are shorthanded as well. They're going to be without a lot of players.
Seems to be a theme in the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, the Pistons are down 4 of their major rotational players tonight. But this is a game you have to win on the road. This is a 6-game road trip. To have a chance of going 500 on this road trip, they need to win tonight. This is a below 500 team. The Pelicans are below 500 on the road. Don't turn the ball over. Rebound the basketball. Go inside the Jonas.
Always enjoy our conversations, David. Have a great weekend.
You too, brother.
That's David Grubb, Hard in the Paint podcast. Does an awesome job. Covers the Saints, covers the Pels, and always our go-to for some Pels scoop as they get back on the hardwood against a shorthanded bad Pistons team tonight. As he mentioned, gotta find a way on the road, especially as shorthanded as the Pelicans are, and they got to find a way to beat Detroit tonight. Speaking of going on the road, LSU basketball will go on the road tomorrow to play the best team in the league. That is Alabama. Tony Tsoukalas covers the Alabama Crimson Tide. We'll chat with him next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana loyal, and they mean it. And they don't just use it as a tagline. They actually do it. And what they do is elevate and celebrate champions of Louisiana, like Hunters for the Hungry. Hunters for the Hungry is a nonprofit that was founded by a group of local hunters to share the game that they fish and harvest every single year with the needies. They started in 1994, and over the years, they've partnered with all 5 major food banks in Louisiana. They've got unbelievable programs like Clean Out Your Freezer Day, which is in September. All sportsmen encouraged to make room in their freezer for what they will harvest over the hunting season, and when they clean out that freezer, take it to different 35 locations throughout the state, and those locations will properly package the protein, and they will take it and give it to the needy, which is of no cost to the hunter and is a wonderful operation that Hunters for the Hungry undertakes. So they are certainly a champion of Louisiana. LWCC wants to elevate and celebrate champions of Louisiana. If you know one, go to lwcc.com/champions, lwcc.com/champions, and nominate someone to be a champion of Louisiana so we can tell their story on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Hunters for the Hungry is January's Champion of Louisiana, presented by LWCC.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli? I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you were born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off MSRP on a new 2022 Ford F-150, plus no payments for 90 days and 2.9% APR for 72 months. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Friday's AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. The latest transfer portal haul from the Tigers, we're talking about it, and the Riot Radio Hours return. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LSU and Alabama from Coleman Coliseum over in Tuscaloosa tomorrow. Tide playing some awesome basketball. Well-deserved top 5 ranking. Tony Tsoukalas covers Alabama for Tide Illustrated, part of the Rivals Network. Tony, how are you?
Hey, how's it going? Doing pretty well.
Good to hear it. The question everybody wants to know now that LSU and Alabama play tomorrow in basketball, who's Alabama's quarterback going to be next year?
I don't know. I guess early indications would be Jalen Miller or Ty Simpson, but we'll have to see between those two. Maybe even a transfer portal guy. I don't know. It's a wild time in college basketball. You can never be too sure.
Let's talk some hoops. Alabama playing exceptional basketball under Nate Oates. What's been the most impressive thing about this team thus far?
I like this team because it can win in a variety of ways. It can win ugly. You've seen it kind of do that a couple of times. It kind of did that against Kentucky. It did that against Houston on the road. It can drain threes. If it gets hot, it's pretty much unstoppable. It just can do a lot of things, and it's not super reliant on one player. I mean, Brandon Miller's probably the best player in the SEC, but they've won some big-time matchups without him, or when he's kind of struggled. So while he's huge for their success, they're not reliant on him either. They've got plenty of guys that can step in. They're really deep. They're really long. Just a tough matchup.
When things haven't gone well for the Tide, which hasn't happened very often, what's been the issue?
I think it's turnovers, really.
Yeah.
Turnovers, and I guess the rebounding, they need to get better on both sides. But I think turnovers has been the Achilles heel of this team. So they've kind of fixed that a bit in the past. Not so much against Arkansas, definitely against Kentucky. It seems like they're on the up in that, but that's something that, if you're going to beat this Alabama team, you're going to make it turn over the ball. That's been the ingredient.
How big of an impact has Mark Sears been? That's a guy who played for Ohio last year. They came to the PMAC and were a pretty solid club, but he's surprised me.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think everyone knew he could shoot when they got him from Ohio, but I don't think they expect him to be. He's from Poly. You could argue, at least in the last few games, he's been the second best player on the team. outside of Brandon Miller. He scores in double digits every game now, but he's been really racking up. He had 6 steals against Kentucky. I think he had 3 or 4 against Arkansas. The defensive side of his game has gotten a lot better. He's kind of playing that blue-collar basketball that Nate Oates preaches. And so if he adds that plus the shooting, I think he can be, on our message board, somebody asked if he could be an all-SEC player. And I think he could maybe be a second-team all-SEC guy if he keeps up at this pace, which is something that, I think a lot of people thought he was going to be a decent player, but maybe not at that level.
Last year, kind of the engine of Alabama was Jaden Shackelford and Javon Quinterly. Shackelford, of course, moves on. Quinterly comes back, and now he's coming off the bench. How has he adjusted to that?
He's done really well in terms of taking that leadership, mold. We've seen Javon Quinterly do that in the past. When Alabama had its big run, he came off the bench. Its big run in the 2021 season when it won the SEC, he came off the bench, and he's doing that again. It'd be real easy for a guy that, he just scored his 1,000th point a couple of games ago. It'd be real easy for a guy like that to say, look, I deserve to be a starter, or, kind of pout on the bench. Or he hasn't done any of that. He's kind of taken his role mentoring some of these young guards. Alabama has Jaden Bradley, Rylan Griffin, and he's really taken them under his wing. And that's not only going to help Alabama this year, but moving forward in terms of, getting those guys producing at their top level and really helping them mature. He's been almost like an extra coach for Alabama. And that's not to say that he can't influence a game, too. He's, an excellent passer. He's a mature guard on the court. You need guys like that. But one of the biggest attributes he's had is really just his team effort and kind of guiding some of those young guards.
You mentioned length on this Alabama team a little bit earlier. Charles Bediako, 5-man, been a really, really good defender in the league for a couple of years. What does he add to the team?
Yeah, he's like, he can do that. He was big in stopping Oscar Tshiebwe in Kentucky, and he's, Alabama's best down low defender. Another guy that they have too is Noah Clowney, and I think having both of those guys, it seems like Alabama's had a big, and last year they had Bediako. Bediako, to his credit, added a bit more weight, a little muscle, and he's a bigger presence inside. But then also having some of the other length, like Noah Clowney, to kind of go with him in that starting lineup, I think it's really helped him in terms of how Alabama's able to defend down low. Brandon Miller, not necessarily somebody you look at for his defense, but he's also another guy that adds length and kind of can make things difficult down low. And then you've got Mark Sears, who's been scrapping lately, and he's not going to win any battles in the paint, but he's going to maybe wrestle some loose balls away, and he's going to out hustle people for those deep rebounds. So between all of that, I think Alabama's they can do some damage on the boards with Bediako and Clowney. Just kind of getting things to click on a more consistent basis.
Chatting with Tony Tsoukalas of Tide Illustrated, part of the Rivals Network. You've seen this team for 2 months. Are they national championship good?
They are national championship good, and I am always hesitant to say that against Alabama. Because I think we've seen these teams kind of fall apart, or Alabama's just never really done it at that level yet. So it's kind of hard to say, oh, this team is national championship good. But you go in to Houston and you beat Houston. It seems like they've been very battle tested, and they've looked pretty good in every single game. I do think that is. I'm not saying they are going to win the national title. I think there's a lot that goes into that. But does it have the chance or the talent? It can beat any team in the nation right now.
I watched that Gonzaga game, and it took an absolute flamethrower from Gonzaga in the second half, where they just couldn't miss a shot to beat them. I would agree with you. I think they're the best team in the league, and I think they are prime for a run. We got to circle back around to football. That's the way things go, I guess, in this part of the country. But what is, on your message board, your Twitter feed, what is the reaction of Alabama fans now that Georgia's won back-to-back national titles?
There's some that I guess get bothered when people talk about Georgia being on top, but I think there's an acceptance, at least at the direct moment, that Georgia is the kings of college football. I don't think that that's necessarily bad to say either from an Alabama perspective. You're fooling yourself if you don't think that Georgia's on top. You don't win back-to-back national championships and go undefeated and not be on the top. So I think that there's it creates a little bit of an anger in the fan base, and I think that and a hunger, and maybe a little bit of a concern, but I don't think anyone thinks Alabama is going to be down too long. And it's not even really like Alabama was down. I think you could argue that they were the second best team in college football this year. They just weren't able to put it together, and they were inconsistent, and they lost 2 close games, and they don't deserve to be in the playoffs, based on the resume. But I think if you were taking the best teams, I think they probably would have been one of those 4 best teams for sure. So I don't necessarily think Alabama's down. It's just they had an unfortunate season, and I think the fans kind of know that.
Do you expect both coordinators back?
I do not expect Bill O'Brien back, and I'm kind of unsure about Pete Golding. I definitely think that O'Brien's moving on. He's kind of a pro guy anyway. I think he spent his 2 years in Alabama, kind of had that Saban reset that a lot of coaches like to get, and I expect him to move somewhere in the pros. It looks like it could be New England, but it could be a variety of teams as well. Pete Golding, there's always those rumors about Pete Golding. I'm less sure on him leaving. In fact, I'd probably predict him to stay, but I'm not saying that with as much confidence as I was, a few weeks ago. So I don't think it'll be both, but it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if it's both.
Outside of quarterback, what's the biggest question mark entering the spring for this Alabama team?
I think this offensive line is it has the potential to be good. I mean, when you look at the players it's bringing in, it brought in a 5-star, the top offensive tackle for rivals in Caden Proctor. Last year, you saw Elijah Pritchett have that pectoral injury that took him out for the whole season, but he was the top tackle or top offensive lineman, according to rivals, in not this year's class, but last year's class. And then before that, you had J.C. Latham, who was the top offensive lineman. So you could feel the starting lineup with the 3 most recent top offensive linemen in their class. That's a lot of talent. If you can put together that kind of line with the running backs that Alabama has, Jace McClellan, Rodell Williams, they brought in 2, big-time running backs in Justice Haynes and Richard Young. So they've got a really loaded backfield. It might not necessarily matter who's the quarterback. I think you could argue that this could be a kind of a more ground and pound, kind of, maybe a throwback Alabama team. Obviously, they're going to need to pass, but I think that they've got 2 capable quarterbacks. I think if you get that offensive line to what it could be, it could be a sneaky, dangerous offense.
Tony, we appreciate the time. Have a great weekend, man.
Yeah, you guys too.
Tony Tsoukalas from Tide Illustrated, part of the Rivals Network, covers Alabama, LSU, and the Tide tomorrow. I'm curious about that Alabama program moving into next year. It's kind of odd that they haven't won a title in 2 years. And there's so much gnashing of teeth about Golding and O'Brien and all that left. And I was just curious if it was going to be, that those guys would be back. It does appear that Bill Belichick is going to hire an offensive coordinator. I think he said that in a press conference today, and obviously Bill O'Brien has worked there previously, and that may make some sense, and they bring somebody else in. But I got to be really honest with you. If they walk Jalen Milroe out there as the starting quarterback next year, that doesn't feel like a national championship to me. It just doesn't. They're going to be talented all over the place, but Milroe ain't Bryce Young. He ain't Tua. He's fast, but I just don't know if he's those 2 guys. So we'll see. That's very, very interesting. So appreciate Tony's perspective. I'll give you my thoughts on LSU and Alabama coming up at straight up 2:00. However, there's an anniversary we have to get to. We will do that to finish off hour number 1 next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
NFL Wildcard Weekend is here, and the easiest way to get into the playoffs is with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers join today to get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up with the promo code 1045 ESPN. FanDuel's got all your favorite bets from the money line to point spreads to player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. It's all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, with promo code 1045 ESPN. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Bonus issued knowledgeable free bet that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you're somebody who has a gambling problem, wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off MSRP on all new 2022 Black Widow Jeep Gladiators in stock. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty and free delivery. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou is going to do right by you.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
You ever heard the tale of the misunderstood bull? A menacing beast that was born to float. A force of nature. The embodiment of grace. Quite grand, yet quiet and nimble. The Infiniti QX80.
Experience the Infiniti QX80 at your local Infiniti retailer.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years.
The Monday evening edition of Game Time presented by Bet Rivers. We're live at Rouge Creole in Perkins Row, recapping all of the college and NFL action from the weekend on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Clemson brings the pressure. It's picked up, and now Burrow is launching downfield, and it's Chase again who's got the catch, and again fighting inside the 5. 4-point plays. Burrow looking to run, escapes and scores. Well, they run the play, and now it's Jefferson out of the flat.
3 years ago tonight, LSU and Clemson in January of 2020. Where were you? I was there. I've said this a billion times in the air. Hope you're not sick of it, because I'm going to keep talking about it. I am never going to get tired of talking about that team and that night. That whole day is just burned into my brain. It was, of course, a Monday, and I was in insurance at the time, and my home, like the main office of my company, I worked out of Baton Rouge, so the main office is literally across the street from the Superdome, like literally across Poydras, right there. And so I went in to work, but I was in my pregame clothes, and I saw my boss. He looked at me and goes, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Well, I won't be here long." Went to lunch with some buddies, and I just decided I'm going to go in really early. I don't have anything else to do. I'm going to go in the Dome really early. So I went in probably around 3:15, 3:30, and I'm walking in the dome, and it's empty. And I walked out on the field, walked out to the 50-yard line, and just kind of looked at the kind of enormity of the dome. And I was thinking in my head, I feel like I've done a pretty good job of this, of not taking some of these things for granted. I think, people my age, LSU fans my age, are used to being good and being in the mix all the time. And that wasn't always the case, but I don't think my perspective is too warped. And I realized that day that I was going into this game and potentially could come out on the other side saying, that's the greatest team I'll ever see. I mean, at that time, I'm 32 years old, and I'm going, it may not get any better than this. And I realized that at the time. And it just gave me this, it was just surreal just watching that entire day. And I got to do the pregame show from the press box. And I've only done that. That was the first time I'd ever done, well, it's actually second, that I'd ever done pregame from the stadium. We always do it somewhere back in Baton Rouge. It gets sold to a hotel or a restaurant or whatever, and we do it here. But they said we were going to go to the national championship game. So we did pregame and had the opportunity during pregame to watch the crowd file in. And there was no seat for me in the press box. They gave me a ticket. So I went down, I sat in the upper deck, and then went back up into the press box for postgame. But the confidence that I had in that team, unmatched. And I remember very distinctly, Clemson goes up 17-7, and my buddies in the group text are texting, and one of the guys goes, we're in trouble. And I said, no, we're not. No, we're not. We get the ball back. Right down the field, boom. And Clemson had no answer. They had an answer early. They confused the offensive line. They got to Joe a little bit. The field position was terrible. But once Joe and Ensminger figured it out and Brady figured it out, it was just a cakewalk again for the 400th time in a row. And doing post-game for that, watching the presentation, the confetti fall, and then watching everybody file out, it's a memory I'll have in my brain forever. And then I went and left the press box after post-game and went to the team hotel. And my parents were there, and my now wife, it was my girlfriend at the time, were there, and it was just an absolute scene in there until I went back up to my room at 4:15. I mean, it never slowed down. And players were coming in, coaches were coming in, fans were there, drinks were flowing. It was awesome. And it brings to the point, like, I think LSU fans, hopefully there's a next time they play for a national championship pretty soon. That would be awesome. Never know. And it's just a fluky coincidence that LSU's 4 times to play in this game have all been in New Orleans. And there's a segment of the fan base that'll go, well, I would rather go to Miami or go to Phoenix or play in the Rose Bowl or what. And I'm like, yeah, I would like that too. That'd be good. But if I had to play in a championship game, that's the city I want to play it in. Because 1, we're going to sell a lot of tickets and show up. And 2, there's so many people there. I've been lucky to be there all 4 times we play in the game. And be in the city that weekend, around town. And like, if you go, there's just so many people that around. That's at least my experience. Because it's just such an easy trip to make for most of us. And I've got my college roommates there, and I've got my mom and dad there, and I've got all my friends, and you got family there, and like there's dinners, and we know where to go, and you got places to stay, and like it creates this unbelievable environment, and I just love playing games there. So there's a part of me, it's like, yeah, I get the people that would rather do it somewhere else one time. We go to Indy or Miami, whatever, Atlanta, whatever. I got to tell you, I kind of like my time in the Dome and in that city. And man, what a scene that place was for really 3 days leading up to that game. It's the 3-year anniversary of it, and the memories don't fade. They haven't for me. And I was scrolling through stupid Instagram yesterday, and the Barstool guys have this content where they walk around the Barstool office and they just ask a quick question to like 15 people and cut it up and put it all together. And the question they ask, best college football team of all time. And 60% of the Barstool people, none of which have any allegiance to LSU, and most of which have no real interest in college football. It's a pro sports world up there in the Northeast. 2019 LSU, the Burrow LSU team. Just, boom, comes right to mind. And that's cool. That's really cool. I might trade it for all the Bama titles, but you know what? Sometimes going through a little bit of adversity makes the top even sweeter. And having lost to Troy and thought, man, this isn't going to work out, and then to ascend to that height, It was fun. It was one heck of a ride. Get the GAT, dancing in the Oval Office, beating everybody by 30. Joe B. And now, because of that night 3 years ago today, we'll all crank up the TVs on Saturday night and we'll be pulling for the Bengals, which is something I just never, ever could have imagined happening. But 3 years ago, tonight, January the 13th, 2000, LSU won the national championship over Clemson. Joe Burrow, your most outstanding player, and man, was that a fun weekend down there in the Big Easy. Hopefully we get to do it again very, very soon. Got work to do, though. Tiger basketball team's got work to do as well. They'll crank things up against Alabama tomorrow. I will give you my full breakdown of Alabama, kind of a scouting point of what to expect tomorrow. That'll lead off hour number 2. We'll talk about the rest of the SEC basketball games, as well as some picks for the NFL playoff games coming up. Your opportunity to fade. You can win cash. That's all coming up in hour number 2. If you missed any of hour number 1, you can catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand page, Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube. Like, subscribe, rate, review, all that. We opened talking about LSU's early enrollees, who's coming to campus to start their freshman year. David Grubb, Hard in the Paint, Tony Tsoukalas from Tide Illustrated, talking about Pels and Alabama Crimson Tide. We're going to go to Sports Center, come back right after that. LSU and Alabama preview. It's the Hunt Palmer Show, 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Auctioner.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli? I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you were born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, And LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
Is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Chargers wideout Mike Williams is out for tomorrow night's wild card playoff game against the Jaguars. He has a small fracture in his back from the regular season finale against the Broncos. ESPN's Lindsey Theory reports unless the Chargers make a long playoff run, Williams' season could be over. Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson won't play in Sunday's game against the Bengals, and ESPN's Field Yates believes there might be a difference of opinion between Jackson and the team.
My interpretation, to borrow Fitz's word, would be that the Ravens seem to think Lamar is fairly close to returning, and Lamar's absence from practice in his tweet last night does not seem to reflect that.
Field Yates on Fitz and Harry. The NFL All-Pro team is out today. Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce and Vikings wideout Justin Jefferson are unanimous picks. Kansas City and San Francisco each have 4 players on the first team. ESPN's Jeff Passan reports the Padres will sign outfielder Juan Soto to a 1-year, $23 million contract to avoid arbitration.
We all know the game isn't over till it's over. So next time your car breaks down, don't call it quits. Head to eBay Motors. They have 122 million parts to take your car into overtime. Get the right parts at the right prices. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Now, Hunt Palmer. Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
One more hour to go for me in this work week. Hope yours is coming to a close as well. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Some hoops for the first part of this hour, then we'll do some NFL playoff picks. I've been remarkably bad at picking everything, so if you want to take the picks and then fade them and win copious amounts of cash, I won't stop you from doing that. But I'm going to give my picks out at 12:30. Let's start with LSU and Alabama, though. Tigers headed to Coleman Coliseum tomorrow to face Alabama. The Tide is impressive, man. They are really impressive. You go through, statistically, you go through their personnel. Nate Oates has put together a hell of a basketball team, and we chatted with Tony Tsoukalas about it at 1:30. I asked him if he thought they were national championship good. He said he thought they were. I would agree. Now, of course, they lost to Gonzaga. I watched that game. Gonzaga could not miss a shot. Now, that is year in and year out one of the most skilled teams in all of college basketball. We know that. But, man, they were on a flamethrower. And that's what it took to beat Alabama. Tied number 4 in the country. They're 14-2. They are 4-0 in league play. The statistic that is most impressive to me about this team is their tempo. They're second in the country in possessions per game. They get up and down, and they go. They get shots up quickly. They will turn you over, and they will get moving. And at times, they'll turn it over. We'll talk about that as well. But the game goes very quickly for Alabama. They're second in the country in tempo, as I mentioned. LSU is 253rd in the country in tempo. The only team in the SEC that's slower than LSU is Mississippi State. So if you're just looking for something very obvious, other than the scoreboard, I guess, to determine how this game's going, slow it down. Slow it down. Limit possessions. If Alabama comes out and plays a really good game, LSU's not going to win. LSU's not good enough in that environment to stand up to Alabama. No one has thus far. They're 9-0 at home. But one thing to look at is, can LSU control the pace? That's what they're going to need to do. Now, Alabama's offensive efficiency is 63rd in the country. They score a lot, but they turn the ball over a good bit, which hurts them in terms of their efficiency metrics. They are 12th in the country in threes attempted a game, so they shoot a bunch of threes, as you know. They are 11th in the country in made threes per game. Now, they're going to do most of their damage in two ways. And you know this by now if you've listened to me for any period of time at all. If you listen to Hoops with Hunter, if you've listened to me on this broadcast, Alabama believes in the analytics very, very strongly. They believe there are three places on the floor that are the most efficient places to score, and that's where they shoot from. They shoot from the rim, they shoot from the free throw line, and they shoot from the three-point line. That's it. You will not see any player in Alabama pull up and take a 12-foot jump shot. That ain't happening. They're not going to grab the ball at the top of the key and shoot a jumper. They're not going to do it. They're going to go to the rim exclusively or shoot threes. That's it under Nate Oates. So you look at their percentages. They're 70th in the country in percent of their points from three, and they're 355th in the country. There are only 8 teams in the country who score more infrequently from two-point range because they get fouled and they go to the free throw line, and they're 23rd in the country in the percent of the points they get from free throws. Now, here's a bugaboo, and Tony mentioned this, and this is LSU's fighting chance in the game tomorrow. They're 338th in the country, which is bad in turnovers. Pre-conference, they were turning the ball over 17 times a game. Now, they've limited that, and SEC played only 12 a game, so they've gotten better at it. But they go very, very quickly. And they're going to drive and drive and drive. And what do drives oftentimes result? Yeah, they'll get you layups. Yeah, they'll get you fouled. They'll also create turnovers. So if there's one bugaboo for this team, they turn the basketball over. Their defensive efficiency is very good at 21st. They're 7th in the country in opponent's two-point percentage. They block a lot of shots. They're 11th in the country in blocks. So they have an identity. That's one thing you can say for Nate Oates. You can hate Nate Oates. I don't like him at all. You yell about my program and tell my coach to get the blank out of here. I'm not going to like you very much. So I hate Nate Oates. But he's got an identity to his basketball team. They're going to shoot threes, they're going to drive, and they're going to play defense. That's what you're going to get. Guys have come and gone out of that program in the last 4 or 5 years, but they're the same. So here's personnel-wise who they are. Mark Sears is their lead guard. We saw him last year for Ohio. Ohio was one of those teams Will Wade put on the schedule because they knew they were going to win a lot of games, and they did. And Mark Sears was a big part of that, and he transferred to Kentucky. He's 6 feet, 175-pound junior, 15.5 points a game, about 3 assists a game, shooting 42% from three, and he leads the team in free throws attempted. He carried them in Fayetteville. Had 26 points in that game. He was awesome. Very good shooter, good point guard, veteran. He can play. Jaden Bradley's the off guard, 6'3" freshman. He's only made 4 threes all year. He's a slasher and an assist giver. He's a guy that's going to put it on the deck and get to the rim. But it all starts and ends with Brandon Miller. If you have not watched this guy and tomorrow's going to be your first time to see him, look out. This is Kevin Durant light. This is Jabari Smith-esque. That's his game. He's 6'9", 200 pounds, was a top 10 player in the country, 5-star. He's a lottery pick. He's going to be a stud in the NBA. It's nice when dad plays tight end for Gene Stallings at Alabama. That's a nice hook for Nate Oates to bring him in. And they've got him at the 3, 6'9", 200, leads the SEC in scoring, shoots 45% from 3, 83% free throw shooter. They played Gonzaga, as I mentioned earlier this year. He scored 36 on Gonzaga. If you were listening yesterday, I was talking about how impressed I was with Bama in Fayetteville in a dogfight, 2-point game. Bang, bang, Miller has 2 threes. Fearless, talented. He's a stud. And LSU is going to have to deal with him. I don't know who matches up with him for LSU. When you talk about a 6'9", ball-handling 3-point shooter, LSU doesn't necessarily have that guy on the roster. So that's going to be a tough matchup for whoever it is they decide to put on. Noah Clowney's another freshman, was a 5-star, 6'10", 210, 10 points and 8 rebounds, had 15 points against Arkansas. I mentioned he's 6'10". He was 3 of 4 from 3 against Arkansas. Shoots 35% from deep. He will stretch the floor. And then you've got the anchor in the middle, Charles Bediako, who's their 5-man, 7-footer, 230 pounds. He doesn't do a ton on offense other than set screens and then dunk. That's about it. Nice life. But then you go to the defensive side of the floor, and he is an absolute menace. And he will very likely be spending a lot of time with KJ Williams, and that's trouble for LSU because KJ is a heck of a player. He took it at Castleton a little bit at times, but he didn't shoot it very well from three in that game. And Bediako's going to be out there contesting threes. He runs the floor. He's a really good player. So the matchups for LSU are not good. I'll just be quite honest. I haven't even mentioned Javon Quinterly, who was like their number 2 player last year. He comes off the bench now. There's a reason this team's undefeated in the league and in the top 5 of the country. They're very, very good. So what can LSU do? Well, one, as I mentioned earlier, you got to slow the game down. That's number 1. The more possessions you play in this game, the worse it's going to look. If you can play this game in the 60s, you got a fighting chance. If it gets into the 80s, you have absolutely zero chance. None. So slow it down. Don't turn the ball over. You turn the basketball over and get them running, that place is going to be nuts. They're going to maul you. You can't turn the ball over. And then you've got to hope against hope that Bama's got a poor three-point shooting game in them. Now, we all remember 2 years ago when Alabama came in here and it was a really high-profile matchup. LSU had Smart and Watford, Cam Thomas, and Bama made every shot they looked at for the entire first half. I've never seen a scoring outburst like that in my life. They come out and do that, you just get on the bus and come on back. But LSU is in the top 15 in the country in three-point defense. Some of that's because they're good. They prioritize it. Matt McMahon's talked about that. And some of that's guys just missed shots and he played some bad teams. We'll put it to the test tomorrow. If you force Bama to go 5 for 27 from 3, you'll be in the game for sure. They go 14 for 27, night-night. So that stat, which I think is, some chance, some defense, will be put to the test big time tomorrow. Miller and KJ are going to have to shoot the ball well. LSU is not going to come out against Alabama, in my opinion, and chop them up, get to the rim, create a bunch of really good looks, and be incredibly efficient offensively in that way. But Miller could go 7 of 11 from 3. Like that's a realistic thing. He did it the first 2 games of the year. No word yet. I don't know if Matt McMahon's met with the media. I think he probably has at this point. I haven't seen if he has. I haven't heard about Cam Hayes. You could really use him back in this game because he gives you a little jolt offensively, what the Juice Hill doesn't necessarily give you as much. It's a long shot in Coleman Coliseum tomorrow. LSU, it's been a house of horrors for LSU for years, but this is a little different animal. This is a really good Alabama team. So, look, nothing to lose in the game tomorrow for LSU. Go out there, let it rip. Take care of the basketball. Hope you knock down some shots and run them off the three-point line. We'll see, but the odds are against the Tigers. I will take Bama. I haven't seen what a number is going to be on that game, but I would imagine it's somewhere in the double digits, and I would have a hard time taking LSU if it was anywhere around 11 or so. So we'll see. LSU and Alabama tomorrow from Coleman Coliseum. Get you caught up on what we're looking at the rest of the SEC tomorrow, and then we'll talk NFL playoff games later on in this hour. Don't go anywhere. It's the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford. Check out that inventory, BayouFord.com. Go to the website. First thing you see, don't settle. What does that mean, don't settle? Don't settle for just what's on the lot. You don't have to. They'll customize a vehicle for you. 75% of the customers that shop with Bayou Ford customize their vehicle. 50% of the customers at Bayou Ford never set foot on the lot. Bayou to you. It's what they do. You customize a vehicle, tell them exactly what you want. They turn it around in 60 to 90 days. They've got one of their full-time drivers that drives the car and all the paperwork right to you. No longer do you go to the dealership, walk the lot for 45 minutes, drive 3 cars, sit down, sign 400 papers. You're there all day. It's not the way it works anymore. Work with the guys at Bayou Ford. Customize a vehicle that you want. Have them drive it right to your door. Could not be any more convenient. Every new purchase at Bayou Ford comes with a 1,000,000-mile powertrain warranty. A 1,000,000-mile powertrain warranty. I doubt you're going to drive it over 1,000,000 miles. So for the life of that vehicle, you're going to have it under that powertrain warranty. Check out that inventory at BayouFord.com. BayouFord.com is a website. Bayou Ford, where they're going to do right by you.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli? I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you're born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
Have you ever heard the tale of the misunderstood bull? A menacing beast that was born to float. A force of nature. The embodiment of grace. Quite grand, yet quiet and nimble. The Infiniti QX80.
Experience the Infiniti QX80 at your local Infiniti.
NFL Wild Card Weekend. Tune in Saturday when the 49ers host the Seahawks at 3:30 p.m., immediately followed by the Jaguars and Chargers at 7:15. Then on Sunday, the Bills host the Dolphins at noon, the Vikings host the Giants at 3:30, and the Bengals host the Ravens at 7:15. Right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
A little bit of news in Southeastern Conference land. If you were listening back in hour number 1, we had Tony Tsoukalas on. He covers Alabama. And I asked him if the coordinators were expected to come back. He said, I don't think Bill O'Brien will. Not sure about Pete Golding. We got our answer 15 minutes ago. Pete Golding leaving Alabama to be the defensive coordinator at Ole Miss. So something tells me that Old Nick said, hey, I want to go find another job, Pete. I'm just guessing, unless Golding just didn't want to work for Saban anymore, thought Kiffin might be a little more laid-back lifestyle in Oxford. But Pete Golding has been the Alabama Crimson Tide defensive coordinator for the last couple of years, moving on to Oxford, Mississippi. So likely Nick Saban going to replace both coordinators if Bill O'Brien takes a job in the NFL, as most expect that he will. Southeastern Conference basketball. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. I should have known that because LSU's the 7th. Outside of LSU tomorrow. Biggest one, most high-profile one, probably going to be Kentucky and Tennessee. I've kind of chronicled the goings-on in Lexington, Kentucky right now. Mitch Barnhart, the athletic director, went on Kentucky Sports Radio today with Matt Jones to kind of put some of the fires out a little bit. But that's not going to be a fun place to go. Thompson Bowling Arena is going to be on fire tomorrow. Tennessee fans do not like Kentucky, do not like Calipari, and Tennessee will smell blood tomorrow when Kentucky comes in there. Oscar Tshiebwe has been clamoring with his guys to fight and fight and fight. We'll see if they do. Kentucky wants to get this game into the 70s if they can. Easier said than done. Tennessee's defense is tenacious. Kentucky's offense has been very bad outside of the game against LSU. Something tells me they're going to be closer to the 50s. And if they are, they're going to have a hard time winning the game. But you wonder how many more hits they can take. The natives are restless. So we'll see. The Thompson Bowling Arena going to be on fire tomorrow for that one between Kentucky and Tennessee. Georgia is at Ole Miss. The Rebs have lost 5 in a row. Look, I think the losses are what they are, but the other part of this is the arena. And if they've got an empty arena tomorrow on a Saturday afternoon and Georgia beats them, you can start to see the writing on the wall with the Kermit era there in Oxford. It just doesn't look good. You're talking about a team in Ole Miss that lost shootouts to Bama and Auburn and lost tractor pulls to Tennessee and Mississippi State. They can lose in any style. They can do it either way, but they're losing because they just don't have the talent at Ole Miss. So we'll see if Georgia and Mike White can go in there and get a win. Mike White, of course, Ole Miss alum, maybe doing some damage to his alma mater tomorrow. Arkansas is at Vanderbilt. Hogs better not slip up here. You don't want to go to Nashville and lose. Right now, you're talking about a 1-3 Arkansas team in the league. Vanderbilt's 8-8 overall. They don't play any defense. If Arkansas can't score on Vanderbilt's defense, that's issues. And they've got them right now in Fayetteville. They got depth issues and they got offensive issues. We knew when they came to Baton Rouge. If you heard me break down the game, I was like, they can't shoot. They're just bad shooting team. We had Andrew Hutchinson come on. He covers Arkansas. He said, yeah, well, they can't shoot. Musselman says they can't shoot. Well, then you better get to the rim a lot, and you better shoot a lot of free throws. And that's going to be the goal for them against Vanderbilt coming up tomorrow. If they lose this one to go to 1-4, you start talking about, leaking onto the bubble. I mean, is that realistic? If you've lost to LSU and Vanderbilt? I mean, going to Auburn, you can lose that. Alabama coming to Fayetteville, you'd like to win that game at home, but that's a game you can lose. You don't need to be losing to LSU and Vanderbilt. Missouri is at Florida. Demouy Hodge and Kobe Brown have been great for Missouri. They both shoot over 40% from three. They've been a really impressive offensive team. We saw Florida come into the PMAC and get a nice win this week. Kind of all starts with Castleton for them. But this is an up-tempo Missouri team that wants to run and gun. What does that mean for Castleton and his role in the game? We'll just have to see. I like Missouri in that game. A&M, who we tried to write off and say the Buzz era was a failure and they stink and they're not any good. They're losing games in the non-conference they shouldn't lose. And then all of a sudden you look up and they're 3-0 in league play. Beat LSU, beat Florida, beat Missouri by 1 million this week. And now they're going to South Carolina, who's not very good. They're close to being 4-0. Makes me want to vomit. They got Florida coming up next week. That's a winnable game. They've already beaten them once in Gainesville. That one's going to be at home. Could be looking at a 6-0 team. That would be very, very unfortunate. So we'll see if A&M can go to Columbia and get a win against what I think is potentially the worst team in the league. In the night game, Mississippi State is at Auburn. Janai Broome versus Tolu Smith, maybe one of the better front court matchups in the SEC. Auburn wants to run. That's Bruce Pearl. Go, 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 go. Shoot threes, run, fast break, press, up-tempo. Mississippi State, they grind you to a halt. They want to slow it down. That's another game like LSU and Alabama. It's really going to be all about tempo. Mississippi State wants to play in the 50s. Auburn wants to play in the 80s. Who can impose their will? We'll just have to see. So I like Tennessee to maul Kentucky. I think that Tennessee smells blood in the water. I like them there. I tried to pick Ole Miss this week. I won't do it again. I'll take Georgia to go to Ole Miss and win. I think Arkansas will go to Nashville and get a win over Vanderbilt. I like Missouri at Florida winning on the road. I like A&M at South Carolina winning on the road. And I like Auburn in Auburn Arena to take care of Mississippi State. That is your SEC basketball slate coming up tomorrow. Want to remind you to join former Tigers Aaron and Austin Nola for the 2023 Strikeout ALS Bowling event. Nola brothers teaming up once again to help raise critical funds and awareness for the fight against ALS. The 2023 Strikeout ALS event will be held at Red Stick Social coming up on Thursday. That's January the 19th from 5 to 10 p.m. I'll be knocking some pins down around 7:30 on Thursday night. You can buy tickets at als.org/strikeout-ALS. That's als.org/strikeout-ALS. All right, that's your look around at the SEC for hoops, but we got NFL football wall-to-wall starting Saturday afternoon. I will get you set for all of it, including my gambling picks, which you are welcome to fade, coming up next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
NFL Wildcard Weekend is here, and the easiest way to get into the playoffs is with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers, you can join today. Get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up with the promo code 1045 ESPN. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from the money line to the point spreads to the player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. It's all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, with the promo code 1045 ESPN. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued non-withdrawable free bet that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you're someone who has a gambling problem, wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ATEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Friday's AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. The latest transfer portal haul from the Tigers, we're talking about it, and the Riot Radio Hours return. Join us 3 to 6 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Internet's an amazing place. I'm just watching a video of some guy holding a shotgun while these bears run past him. It's like a body cam video. Don't get in that situation. Don't go out where the bears are. Just stay inside and watch some NFL playoffs. No bears. Bears aren't in the playoffs either. What a transition. Actually, that wasn't that good a transition. We'll talk NFL tomorrow. Things will crank up at 3:30 on Fox. It'll be Seattle and San Francisco on the NFC side of things. San Francisco is a 9.5-point favorite in this game. San Francisco won the first two matchups in this divisional showdown by a total score of 48-20. Seattle's only scored one offensive touchdown on San Francisco to this point. It's been a nice story for Geno Smith. It's a very impressive accomplishment for Pete Carroll to have never missed the playoffs 2 years in a row. But San Francisco, much the better here. Now, Brock Purdy, lowest drafted rookie QB to ever start a playoff game. That's one side. Then you've got Geno, who, again, had a nice year. 257 yards per game for Geno Smith versus everyone except San Francisco. He's 40 yards worse against San Francisco, just 217 yards per game. I think this is a low-scoring game, but I still think San Francisco will cover the number at 9.5 because I just don't think Seattle's going to score very much. This 49ers defense is just a bully unit. If you watch the Niners, the ball is snapped, the defensive front just starts tossing people around, linebackers flying all over the place, their DBs aren't afraid to hit. Like, they're just bullies when they get out on the field. And that's kind of built in the John Lynch mold, and he's done an awesome job of putting this organization together, and they can churn through quarterback after quarterback after quarterback, even though their offensive play caller is awesome, but the defense is what seals the deal. And I don't know that I trust Brock Purdy all the way here, but I trust Brock Purdy against Seattle. So I will take the 49ers at home, lay in the 9.5. I think they will cover the number. Saturday night game, the Chargers are at the Jaguars. This is an interesting game. It's the first playoff start for both of these quarterbacks, Herbert and Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has had some turnover problems over the last 4 games. He's turned it over 5 times in those 4 games. He's thrown for a lot of yards. He's completed a lot of passes. If you were listening last week when I was going through all the NFL matchups, Lawrence has the highest completion percentage in the NFL since November 1st. So he is playing well in terms of moving the ball and creating points. He's also turning it over a little bit. You cannot do that against the Chargers. Now, Williams being out with a broken back is such a big blow to the Chargers and such a shot across the bow of Staley for having him in that game last week. I hear that argument all the time about rest versus rust and all that kind of stuff. Man, this is a violent sport. Everybody gets hurt all the time. If you got an opportunity to sit your guys down, sit your guys down. And they didn't, and now they'll play without one of their top wide receivers. But I think that place, the Jags fans get a lot of heat because they don't fill their stadium all that often because they're terrible every year and most of their games don't mean anything. But when they are good, that place gets a little rowdy. The Duval chants, and got the crazy mascot. They got the pool over there in the end zone. It can get pretty loud in Jacksonville. And I think it'll be a really good environment. The Chargers are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I think their roster is better, but I kind of like the way the Jags are playing. So I'll take the points, I'll take the 2.5, and I'll take Jacksonville. Do I feel good at all about taking Jacksonville? No, I do not. But I will. I'm trying to give you these picks so that you can turn around, fade the picks, and get cash. So your Saturday picks from me, I'll take San Francisco and lay the 9.5. I will take Jacksonville. I will take the 2.5 with the home dog there. Then on Sunday, you got 3 games. All 3 slots are filled. You got Dolphins and Bills at noon. Bills are a 13-point favorite. That's the Skylar Thompson effect. This ain't exactly the Texas Bowl against John Trey Kirkland. Josh Allen on the other side. look, Raheem Mostert broke his hand. He's questionable in this game. The Dolphins did beat Buffalo with Tua. And both times they've played Buffalo this year, Jalen Waddle's going over 100 yards. I don't think that's going to happen on Sunday. Here's an interesting betting nugget. If you don't want to take what I have to say, just take the actual facts. Since 2014, when divisional teams play in the first round of the playoffs, the under is 8-2. Interesting. Anyway, this game's not going to be close because Skylar Thompson is playing quarterback for the Dolphins. So the Bills are going to roll him, and I'm going to lay the 13. Now, the problem is that I was listening to Jimmy's show earlier, and there is just like 98% of the handle is on Buffalo here. I just don't feel like that the books get beat that bad. Right? Like, do you trust Joe Public, the Hunt Palmers of the world, throwing 98% of the handle on one side and beating Vegas there? That seems dicey. But that's where I would play because there's no chance I'm taking and laying a single cent of my cash on Skylar Thompson against the Bills. Pass. I'll take Buffalo, lay the 13. Giants are at Minnesota. That's a 3:30 game on Fox. Giants were 13-4 against the number this year. Pretty good. It's because no one thinks they're any good. They actually are pretty good. Brian Daboll's done an awesome job. I think more so than any analysis of this game or any statistics on this game, this is so big for Kirk Cousins, right? Like, nobody takes Kirk Cousins seriously, I feel like. The goofy, you like that quote, hadn't won much in his career, nice fantasy quarterback, throws for a lot of yards, his teams don't win. Isn't that the narrative on Cousins? You go out there and lose to the Giants, who really don't even have a quarterback in the first round after the season Minnesota had and winning that division and knocking off the Packers. It just feels like it would fall right into that narrative, and you'd be Kirk Cousins, you'd have a lot of yards passing, you'd have a lot of money, but everybody's like, yeah, but his teams are never good. You can't lose to the Giants in week one of the playoffs. I feel like a big spot here for Kirk Cousins, and I don't trust him. So I'll take the Giants, and I'll take the 3 points. It's just the Cousins effect. Love you, Jets. You're awesome. Pat Pete, you're my guy. Daniil. But I'm not trusting that quarterback in the playoffs. I will take the Giants, and I will take the 3 points. Thank you much. And then the nightcap, where I'm in my dilemma here. I got to figure out a way to get to NBC. I think Peacock is the answer here. Got to buy some month subscription. Give them the $5 or whatever. Watch the Bengals. Ravens at the Bengals. 7:15 on NBC. And if you saw the tweet yesterday, Lamar Jackson tweeted out that he's just not ready to go. And he's got grade 2, whatever. I'm not a doctor. He can't play. And you look at the quarterback position in Baltimore, and we saw it last week. The Bengals defense is not the best in the league, but it's good enough to put a third-string quarterback in a locker. And the Bengals offense is humming. I was so fired up to watch that Bengals-Bill game. That felt like it was going to be 38-35. The Bengals had gone right down the field and scored, and then the Bills had come right back and kicked a field goal. Bengals are going to get the ball back, and it just feels like the Bengals are rolling. And in the exact way that I don't trust Kirk Cousins, I'm going to trust 9. Breaking news. It's a 9.5-point number. I can see a world where the Ravens defense just bows its neck, maybe picks Joe off on a tipped pass or something. They run the ball with Dobbins and keep it fairly close, but I'm not betting on that. I'm betting that the Bengals score 28 points and the Ravens score 10. And that, to me, covers the 9. So I'm going to take a lot of favorites here, which is the very amateur and rookie way to do things. It's also where a lot of the betting public is. But I'm going to take San Francisco and lay the 9.5. I'm going to take the Bills and lay the 13. I'm going to take the Ravens and lay the 9.5. I will take the points with the Jags, and I will take the points with the Giants. Phew, Jags and Giants. That doesn't sound good coming out of my mouth, but that's where I'm going to take it. So, if you feel like most of the Bayou Ford chat does, that I have no idea how to select football games or basketball games, and that all of my wagers are hellacious, go ahead and take those, flip them, get rich. Get real rich on the FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm excited to watch NFL football this weekend. It's never been, well, I shouldn't say that. I was a huge NFL fan in my early childhood because the Cowboys were awesome and I loved them. And the triplets, Aikman's running around, Emmett, Irvin, Harper, Novacek, studs. But that faded. And I have never gotten on the Saints bandwagon. It drives my friends nuts. They say I'm actually a closeted Saints fan. Tough to call me a hardcore Saints fan when I'm playing golf during a lot of the Saints game or taking a nap because I was on the air till 1 o'clock on the postgame show. My heart rate doesn't change when the Saints play. I've been in the Dome. I was in the Dome for that huge game against the 49ers in December of 19 that was going to decide home field advantage. And my heart rate doesn't change when the Saints are on. And not that I'm just an absolutely locked and loaded Bengals fan. I would never claim that. I do want them to win. And so I find myself a little bit more drawn to the NFL now than I have been in the last 20 years. And I'm hopeful that there's a run here coming where the Bengals are pretty relevant for 10 plus years, and that gives me kind of a rooting interest this time of year. Well, quite honestly, you know where my head is. I'm trying to get to baseball season. But I'm excited to watch the playoffs. I'm excited to watch the Bengals on Sunday night. Hopefully they can avoid a disaster and beat a quarterbackless Ravens team and kind of advance. The AFC playoffs have got all the makings of awesomeness. And really, the randomness that could be the NFC playoffs could be really cool, too. So I'm excited to lock it in starting tomorrow at 3:30. That's your look at the NFL wildcard playoff projections. All right, let's take one more time out. We will come back. We will play some Take It or Leave It, and that will do it for us on this work week. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Service Master Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact Service Master Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. Service Master Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli? I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you're born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive.
Monday evening edition of Game Time presented by Bet Rivers. We're live at Rouge Creole in Perkins Row, recapping all of the college and NFL action from the weekend on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You missed it earlier. Mickey Loomis did have a press conference today, met with the media and reinforced that Dennis Allen would be the head coach of the Saints moving forward into next year. Also had a quote. They were asking him about not having a first-round pick this year, and he said, well, it's misleading to say that we don't have a number one pick. We traded it and got 2 last year, and we're excited about Trevor Penning and Chris Olave. Well, okay, I understand what he's trying to say there, but it doesn't change the fact that you don't have a first-round pick this year. Like, it's not misleading to say you don't have a first-round pick. You don't. So you can't add to your team in the first round, and you got a lot of holes to fill. I know that you got Olave and Penning and you're excited about him, but you don't have him. You don't have a first-round pick. Like, people were a little cranky on Saints Twitter that he said Dennis Allen would be back, but that is the case. In the 504 Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Just a very simple question from the first hour. Said, are you superstitious? 54% say yes, I am superstitious, and 46% say they are not. I certainly am. Watching games, I'm a weird guy. I think the weirdest game-watching superstition I ever did, you remember that game in 2005, the Katrina game when LSU went to Arizona State, and LSU was getting smoked by Arizona State. And I just couldn't, I had to change the mojo. So I turned the game off. And I was watching the real Hollywood story of, a true Hollywood story on E! Of some movie star. I don't even remember who it was. But it was a true Hollywood story. And I'd flip back over and we had run a punt back, blocked the punt and ran it back. And I was like, okay, well, I got to keep watching. So I watched E! For almost the entire second half of that game. But I did have to alter the superstition to watch the last play where Jamarcus hit early Doucette, and I use air quotes because that was not a catch on any level of any game, but they gave it to us. And I did watch the last play, but for the kick block and punt block and all that, I was watching True Hollywood Story on E! That's a little bit of a sickness there, but it is what it is. I'm superstitious too. I'm with you there, people. All right, let's do some take it or leave it, Taylor Sharp.
Yeah, let's do it. Jordan Spieth has purchased a bus to travel tour stop to tour stop with his wife and his 1-year-old. Bus life on the PGA Tour. Take it or leave it.
I feel like I need to see the bus. I'm probably going to leave it because it is a bus. He says he got the same mattress he's got at home in it. It's easy because they got a 1-year-old that's got a lot of stuff. You don't have to pack and unpack. Just kind of leave it, and they have the California swing in January and February, and then they go down to Florida, and they're there for 4 weeks before they kind of go over to Texas and Augusta. So it does make some sense geographically and kind of stay on the road. He's got a driver. It's not like he's driving it, but I'll leave it right now. I think if you're that rich, you can get some really nice houses or whatever and get somebody to pack for you. So I don't know if life on the road's for me.
Oh, yeah. When asked if he could break LeBron's career scoring record, Luka Doncic said, I don't know. 20 years is certainly a long time to play basketball. I'd rather just go to my farm in Slovenia. Farm life over getting buckets. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it. I don't know if the farm life's for me either. The road life's for me. The farm life's not for me either. But 20 years is a long time to play basketball. And if you've got a lot of money, which Luka certainly does, and we'll have more over the years, if he wants to go back to the farm life for him, I'll go ahead and take that. But not for me. The chances of me living on a farm in Slovenia, not looking so good. I think that the odds are strongly against that.
Jazz Fest announced its lineup for the spring Jazz Fest. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave Jazz Fest. I apologize to those who I offend. I've got a lot of friends that love Jazz Fest. I have a wife that loves Jazz Fest. Jazz Fest is not for me. It's very, very crowded. It's very difficult to purchase a beverage. I don't care that much about music. Then the thing's over, and there's just no way to get out of there. It's just gridlock all over the place in Mid-City. Thankfully, my wife's brother loves music. She loves music. They go together. Me and Myers hang out, probably watch some baseball or golf or something, and everybody's happy. But Jazz Fest, I've been a couple times. For those that are listening that were at the Elton John Day, on the first hand, I'm glad I saw Elton John in concert. That's a good thing to have seen. He was fantastic. I was shocked at how many songs he had that I knew that I never necessarily associated with him off the top of my head. However, it was an absolute zoo out there. It's muddy. You got to stand in line forever to try to get a beer. It's just not my scene. I'm out on Jazz Fest.
Robbie Angel Knievel, just gave him that nickname, the son of Evil Knievel, died of pancreatic cancer this morning. Daredevils, take it or leave it.
Man, if you're talking about me, like I got to leave it. These people they're nuts. They're entertaining, but man, they're nuts. And I'm skeptical about some of this stuff. Like when you turn on the TV and you're watching those people like tightrope walk across the Grand Canyon, is that real? Like I'd almost be more impressed, and this is a terrible thing to say, I don't really mean it, but like if they fell and like we saved them somehow, I would almost be more impressed because I would know it was real at that point. When they accomplish it, I just have to be skeptical. Are we really tightrope walking blindfolded over a canyon?
Some guy did it over the Vegas Strip a couple years ago, but it was like he was like attached to where he would fall like 50 feet and it would catch him or something. Okay. So it was like,
and look, it's still impressive if you're attached to a wire if you walk it across because it's just hard to tightrope walk. But like Daredevils, man, we're checking off a list of a lot of things that I don't fit in at. I don't the bus life, Jazz Fest, farms in Slovenia, Daredevils. None of them really checking boxes for me.
Here's one you will like, wrapping it up with a little LSU flavor. Justin Jefferson and Travis Kelce, the only players named as unanimous All-Pro selections this year. Jets, the best receiver in the league. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I mean, I'll take it. You saw Brian Daboll said earlier this week that, or maybe it was Wink Martindale. Somebody said it. They said that he's one of the top 2 receivers in the league, and he's not number 2. So I think Chase probably gets the most accolades because he was the Biletnikoff winner, and he had a little bit better statistics at LSU. And he was a little higher draft pick, but Jets' numbers are just impossible to argue against. And again, this goes back to my point that we'll talk about, and we'll talk about, and we'll talk about, and we'll talk about. As these guys continue to do things like this, it elevates that team. And I'm all for that because you're going to have to go for a long time and get a lot of honors to surpass the 2001 Miami team because that was ridiculous, the amount of Pro Bowlers and Hall of Famers and champions that team produced. And LSU's got work to do to get there. And Jets is certainly at the forefront of that with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. So I'm all for it. And it's awesome that everyone recognizes just how great he has been. And the story is crazy from a guy that probably doesn't get a scholarship offer if his last name's Williamson instead of Jefferson. But hey, he had 2 brothers play. Come on, we'll give you a shot. All of a sudden he becomes unanimous All-Pro wide receiver in the NFL. That's pretty salty. So that'll do it for some take it or leave it. Man, what a sports weekend it is going to be. LSU and Alabama tomorrow. NFL playoffs wall to wall. I got my primetime golf. My wife asked, "Hey, can me and Courtney go get some dinner on Saturday night after she gets off her shift?" I said, "You absolutely can. Y'all have at it. I will cook a steak. It has already been purchased. we'll pour a drink. That has already been purchased as well. And we're going to watch some golf and maybe some football as well. It's going to be an awesome weekend. So whatever you may do this weekend, be safe and enjoy it. If you missed any of the show, you can always catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab. Just click on demand and then click on my name. You can get the recaps of every single show. Also have them on Apple Podcast, on Spotify. Just search The Hunt Palmer Show. You can find it. Like, subscribe, rate, review. We can also find us on YouTube, whether it's hanging out in the Bayou Ford chat. Appreciate you all for your interaction each and every day in the Bayou Ford chat. Every show uploads to YouTube immediately when it's over, and we also have some snippets of 10-minute segments and so forth that Taylor puts up every single day. Got the Walker Howard reaction up today if you want to go check that out on our YouTube channel. Appreciate it if you would subscribe right below that screen. That would mean the world to us. Recap of the show. In the first hour, we opened talking about LSU's early enrollees. They are coming this weekend. They will move into campus this weekend, and they will start school coming up on Tuesday. So you want to know who's going to be an early enrollee? Check out the beginning of the show. David Grubb from Hard in the Paint talking Saints and Pelicans, and Tony Tsoukalas from Tide Illustrated, part of the Rivals Network, was talking Alabama as LSU gets prepared for the Tide tomorrow. Talked about the 2019 National Championship game 3 years ago today. 2019 National Championship game was played. Gave you some memories of that. LSU Bama preview at 2 o'clock, SEC Hoops preview, and then some NFL playoff picks. We are on the air on Martin Luther King Day on Monday, so you will catch us then. Matt Viscona about to drive you home on After Further Review from 3 to 6. Have a wonderful weekend. Same time, same place on Monday, 1 to 3 weekdays. It's the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.